some really impactful projects that can make your resume outshine the others that are also applying. And these projects should be something which have some core interesting edge problem that you are trying to solve, gives you some interesting learning as well, and overall gives a lot of weight to your resume, where they just try to make a very mediocre and a very simple app. For example, something like an e-commerce app. Yes, e-commerce has its own set of challenges, its own set of edge problems. It's a very good project if you are actually learning basics of development, front-end development, back-end development, and while learning you are actually building this project. This can be a very interesting application to actually build. On the browser, you need to have a very nice front-end where you can actually mimic a text editor, where you can have a folder structure in which all the folders are present. If you click on a folder, then all the internal subfolders and files can be presented. So this nested tree structure you have to build. You need to integrate a terminal on the browser. One more type of interesting projects that I believe everybody should try is some kind of a booking app. This can be a movie booking application, this can be a hotel booking application like let's say Airbnb or booking.com, some airline booking application or whatnot. In these booking applications, there are a lot of interesting engineering problems to actually solve. Getting your resume shortlisted in 2025 is one of the most difficult tasks when you're actually applying for your next tech jobs. In your resume, it becomes extremely important to have some really impactful projects that can make your resume outshine the others that are also applying. And these projects should be something which have some core interesting edge problem that you are trying to solve, gives you some interesting learning as well, and overall gives a lot of weight to your resume. And a lot of students definitely ask me this question, that what are the different type of projects that they can technically prepare. So in this particular video, I'm going to talk about some really interesting projects that you can prepare if you are actually applying for your next software engineering job. Some of these projects are heavily focused on backend aspects. Some of these projects are full stack projects. If you want to just focus them to the backend, you can even keep that, and so on. So there will be a lot of projects that I'm going to talk about. You can pick maybe any 3 or 4. And one interesting thing about all of this is that all of the projects that I'm going to talk about, we are going to cover in our next Lambda 4.0 advanced backend development batch. Yes, all of the projects that I'm going to talk about, we are going to code end-to-end these projects in the classes and in the form of assignments, so that you can have a really nice portfolio of a lot of projects that is going to add a lot of weight in your resume and definitely make your resume stand out from the crowd. So without any further ado, let's just start. But before starting the video, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, do consider subscribing to the channel, because we are going to put some really awesome content coming up this year. So let's just start. So before moving forward in the video, I have an important announcement for you. So if you're somebody who is actually willing to learn advanced backend technologies, then this is going to be the right platform for you. So at AlgoCamp, we have launched our new flagship Lambda 4.0 advanced live backend development batch, in which you are going to learn advanced backend technologies including Fastify, Express.js, AWS, Mongo, DynamoDB and whatnot. This is going to be a power-packed course in which we are going to take you from the very scratch, very basics of backend technologies to the very advanced level by building a lot of interesting projects. We are going to build projects like Code Sandbox Clone. We are going to build streaming app which will include recorded movie streaming plus live streaming as well. We are going to make applications like booking.com backend, which is going to help you understand transactional capabilities, integrations of payment gateways and many more. All the important projects that we are going to cover in the course is going to be listed here, and this is going to be an absolute live course where we are going to take live classes, right? And in these live classes, we are going to do hands-on coding experience to learn all the important advanced backend technologies. You already know that backend is something that every important application needs, and you can actually excel your software engineering career with these backend tech in the Node.js stack. So what are you waiting for? All the important links, the complete syllabus, curriculum, all the details of the course is present in the description section below. You can use the coupon code coming up here to get maximum discount off on the current price. I'm really excited for the course. I hope you guys are too. And now let's get back to the video. Now, before I talk about what are some interesting projects that you can build, first of all, I would like to talk about what are some of the things that I believe you should not build again and again if you are trying to build up a very nice resume. So a lot of time what people actually do is they try to focus more on simple CRUD apps, and maybe they try to enroll in some cohorts or courses where they just try to make a very mediocre and a very simple app. For example, something like an e-commerce app. Yes, e-commerce has its own set of challenges, its own set of edge problems, but most of the time what people actually build in an e-commerce app is that they have some product catalog, they have some categories, product can be listed, you can add the product to a cart and then you can purchase the cart. That's it. This is the only flow that they technically build, and they try to make a lot of similar application to this. If you carefully try to understand, most of the things in this application is basic CRUD. It's a very good project if you are actually learning basics of development, front-end development, back-end development, and while learning you are actually building this project. But if you feel that this project is going to make your resume stand out, that might not be the case, because every second student probably in your college or every second colleague in your office will be having some basic e-commerce project under their belt. So very mediocre projects like these are not going to help you a lot if you are actually going to apply in this challenging scenario. So it becomes important for you to have some interesting edge heavy projects. Of course, you can actually make sure that whatever projects we are going to talk about, you try to pick some specific aspect of this project and focus solely on that. But again, these are going to be definitely very helpful. So without any further ado, let's start talking about what are some interesting projects that you can build in order to make your resume outshine. So a very interesting application that you see on your web browsers are applications like Code Sandbox, Replit, Project IDX from Google. All of these projects have some very interesting scenario where you can actually set up a workspace and you can prepare your own coding projects directly on the web browser. You do not have to do any local setup. All you have to do is just open their application, choose a particular template, let's say React, Angular, whatever project you want to build, and then you can build them on the browser. Isn't that pretty cool? Interestingly, if you will work at Google as a software engineer, then internally at Google as well, you do not set up your projects locally. All the coding happens on the browser, on the tool which is very similar to Google's Project IDX, which they internally call as Cider. Okay, now this can be a very interesting application to actually build, because there are a lot of interesting pieces that you need to think about and you need to implement. For example, on the browser, you need to have a very nice front end where you can actually mimic a text editor, where you can have a folder structure in which all the folders are present. If you click on a folder, then all the internal subfolders and files can be presented. Then if you click on a subfolder, then more content can be prepared and so on. So this nested tree structure you have to build. You need to integrate a terminal on the browser, right? So that whatever commands you have to execute in order to run the project, you can directly do them in the browser, because all of the coding has to happen in the browser. And more important part and more interesting aspect comes on the back end of it, that how exactly you are going to make these projects run, right? Because this web browser of the client is going to connect to your server. So on the server, what are some interesting things that you are going to do, right? A hint that I can give you guys is maybe you can use containers for this, right? You need to also make sure that the terminal on the browser that you have created connects to the server on which you are actually running your project. So a lot of interesting moving pieces are there, right? How you can actually create files from the browser so that it also gets created on the backend. How you can edit the files, delete the files, run the server, make the network connections, everything end to end. Just try to explore these applications and then try to make your own version of it. It's going to give you immense amount of learning. And again, as I mentioned, we are going to build not just this project, but all the remaining set of projects that I'm going to talk about in our Lambda 4.0 course. So definitely do check out. It's going to be an amazing journey where we are going to have a lot of live sessions, where we are going to focus on these backend concepts. Now let's move on to our next project altogether. Now, one more type of interesting projects that I believe everybody should try is some kind of a booking app. This can be a movie booking application, this can be a hotel booking application like let's say Airbnb or booking.com, some airline booking application or whatnot. In these booking applications, there are a lot of interesting engineering problems to actually solve. For example, what happens if two people are trying to book the same thing at the same time? What if there is only one last resource left and multiple people are trying to actually buy that particular resource? What if a user tried to click the buy now button multiple times? What will happen in that case? Are they going to be charged multiple times, or how things should be handled? There are a lot of transactional problems that actually exist in these booking systems, right? There will be a lot of interesting learning that you will get related to concurrency and how exactly these things are handled on the back end. For this, you can try to build an Airbnb version of your own. You can try to build something like booking.com, and you will be able to actually do the coding of these transactional problems. You need to figure out that, okay, what are some problems that exist in the booking system? For example, let's say you're making a movie booking application and there's a theater in which you are going to book a seat. Now, if multiple people try to select that seat, what happens in Book My Show? right? How can you implement that? Can you optimize on that? Do you want to change the behavior in some particular manner, and so on? How exactly logs are going to be implemented, idempotency in your I would say APIs, how you can implement that, right? Lot of interesting problems there are actually, and this is a very interesting backend heavy project. For this, if you want, you can prepare a front end, but the core crux of the learning is actually going to come in the backend aspect of it. So definitely give this project as well a shot. Now, a set of interesting problems come into the picture when you try to build streaming application like live streaming apps and on-demand video streaming apps. Live streaming apps like, let's say how a live stream of, let's say, your cricket match come on Hotstar or JioCinema, and on-demand video streaming like something like Netflix, where you have movies and videos and TV shows which you can just directly start streaming on your system. Now, how these applications are actually built, right? Because there are a lot of interesting problems to solve here as well. For example, when your internet goes a bit shaky, then the video doesn't stop. Instead, the application starts rendering you a lower resolution video. Maybe initially you were watching it in 4K, but now it's in 1080p. Then if your internet goes even worse, then it can go to 720p or 360p, so on and so forth. You might have seen this happening in YouTube live streams and YouTube videos as well, that they automatically degrade your quality instead of just stopping the video or buffering the video. This is what we call as adaptive streaming. How can you implement adaptive streaming, right? Apart from that, it's not a good practice that you have a video uploaded somewhere, you have that object URL that you can use, and you just embed that URL to your video tags. In that way, people will be able to access the video directly, and people will start downloading very easily all of those videos. How you can avoid that? Instead of just providing the complete video in one shot, how you can actually render the video chunk by chunk, right? Again, this is a concept that will be implemented using adaptive streaming as well, right? And behind the scenes, there is a protocol called as HTTP live streaming, which we also refer as HLS. How HLS can be implemented, and how you can also do live streaming with HLS. That is also going to be a very interesting scenario, because for live streaming you have to prepare a live streaming server like an RTMP server that you can connect to your softwares like OBS, which will capture the feed from one source and start streaming it to your RTMP server, and anybody can connect to your RTMP server and start watching that live streaming, again using HLS altogether, right? So these streaming applications have a lot of interesting problems to solve. Apart from all of these streaming challenges, when you upload a video for on-demand video rendering, then you have to process the video also in multiple qualities. Otherwise, if you do not have multiple qualities of the video, how you will render the chunks of those qualities? How will you do this processing, right? What are some of the interesting libraries and algorithms that you need to use in order to do all of this? If you want to take things even further, you can also separately render the audio and separately render the video, right? Chunks of audio and chunks of video can be rendered separately. You can start exploring all of this. This is a very interesting problem to solve, and the best part is, if you want, you can make a very nice front end to it, like something very similar to a Netflix UI, and you will see the magic that with a very nice UI and a very sophisticated way of streaming your videos, you have made an end-to-end on-demand plus live streaming application. And again, as I mentioned, this app also, along with the other applications that I'm mentioning in this particular video, are all part of our Lambda 4.0 course, so do check it out. And let's move on to the next project altogether. Now, one interesting set of projects come into the picture when you start preparing bots. Yes, you can prepare some nice and simple Telegram, Slack or Discord bots, which can automate something for you. You can make them kind of like a Q&A bot, or you can make them do something very specific periodically and so on. You can set up specific crons, which can actually schedule some processes for you, and then you can use these bots as the interface to give the corresponding output. It's a pretty fun project, and it will help you to learn the basics of how exactly the client-server interaction works, how you can interact with the third-party APIs, third-party SDKs and whatnot. And again, with the I would say integration of some really interesting AI APIs, like let's say the ChatGPT API or the Gemini API, you can enhance the features of these bots, right? You can integrate AI to these bots, and you can make sure that, okay, whatever task and challenges you are giving to this particular bot is also driven by AI. So a pretty interesting and fun project to solve. Do check it out. Now, one interesting applications come into the picture with social media applications. You can make your own Twitter or Instagram like app, and they have some really interesting challenges to solve, because if you start building a social media app, there is of course no end to the features that you can build. For example, you need to build a very sophisticated database in order to make sure that the users are able to make posts can be liked by the users, comments can be added to the post, new comments can be added to existing comments also, the likes can be done on posts as well and comments as well. You can integrate stories, then likes can be done on stories as well, right? And these posts can integrate both images and videos, how you're going to process these images and videos, right? If you want to make it a full stack project, then even in the UI perspective, how you are going to render the nested comments, that post has comments and a comment also has a comment, and it can have any level of nested deep comment altogether. When you are actually fetching the post data, then how exactly you can make sure that you do not fetch like all the data that you have. Instead, you only fetch all the data that you technically need, right? Apart from that, how you can lazily load your posts, how you can optimize the loading of images in the corresponding post, right? When you are creating a post, how you can optimize the creation of the post as well. For example, let's say somebody wants to create a post and upload an image as well. There are some really interesting strategies and really interesting problem that comes with uploading as well. That are you going to take the photo, and once the user clicks on post, you upload the video on the server, and from the server you are going to upload the video to some I would say blob storage. This is kind of like two hops altogether. How can you optimize that? And even if you are able to optimize that, let's say you are somehow able to directly store on the blob storage, then also once you click on the post, then it is going to first of all upload the video, then get the response back, and then you are going to create an entry on the server. Do you think this much amount of time you want to spend, or you can optimize it maybe by being a bit optimistic, such that let's say you start uploading the photo or the video immediately when the user selects it, instead of waiting for them to press the post button. And if they do not press the post button, or if let's say they delete their draft, then later you can purge, or let's say later you can technically remove all of these photos. So these are some really interesting techniques that you can think about in a social media application, right? How you can prepare followership, that user can follow a trend and a user can follow another user as well. The followership can be two way, just like in Facebook, that if A is a friend of B, B is also a friend of A. But what if you want to change it to a one way, something like Instagram, that if A follows B, doesn't mean B also follows A. So some really nice challenges that can come into this project, and if you want, you can build a very nice UI as well. So try, give it a shot. This is going to help you learn a lot of things in your project development journey. Now, in a lot of apps, what you will realize is that chatting is a very important component that is prepared. Let's say if you want to make e-commerce app, then there is a chatbot for support, or I would say chat interface for support. If you are making a social media app, then also there is a chat interface for chatting with your friends, right? If let's say you are making kind of like an interview app where let's say you can integrate your code sandbox project, people can come up and code. If multiple people can code together at the same point of time, then they want to also probably interact, right? So how chatting engines can be prepared, how you can make your own chat application, how protocols like WebSocket can be integrated from front end and back end. This is a very nice and interesting learning to go for. Apart from that, you can enhance these chatting features by introducing maybe video calls, that how you can actually do a video call to somebody, right? How exactly video calling setup in a conference calling scenario or a 1-on-1 scenario is done. How you can actually make sure that both of the things work actually at the same point of time. These are some really interesting utilities that you can add to these chat applications, right? Some more smaller, let's say utilities that you can prepare is, let's say if there is a call that is going to happen, just like something like a meet call, you have chat support also there, call support also there, and maybe you can prepare a URL shortened that somebody can share to like very easily anywhere, let's say they're on their social media platforms or their other chat apps, and ask people to join. So try to think how you can do the URL shortening part as well along with this. So you can make a very end-to-end Google Meet kind of like project, which has video calling, URL shortening, chatting, and while chatting you can upload files and all. A very interesting project, and this will also help you to learn some new protocols that are very important for these chat apps and video calling apps to technically work. Apart from this, you can also try to prepare scheduling apps like Topmate or Calendly, where you can actually ask for somebody's schedule and then maybe you can book a time with them. Once you book a time with them, then at that point of time, you can actually set up a video call with that particular, let's say, mentor or that particular person, right? You will see a lot of applications that do all of this. For example, on Calendly you can do, Topmate you can do. There are a lot of health applications also where you can book some schedule or slot with a doctor, and then you can do a video call with them. So the video call project that you prepared, you can integrate in this particular one as well. And again, this is more like a booking application, so there will be again similar type of booking related problems, that if two people try to book book the same slot, what will happen, so on and so forth. You can also integrate authentication and authorization so that only the authenticated users are able to book a slot. You can also integrate some payment gateways here so that whenever you have to book a slot, you have to make a payment. For payment gateways, you can integrate something like PhonePay's payment gateway, Razorpay's payment gateway, or Stripe's payment gateway as well. So this is also going to be a pretty fun project to learn. Apart from these scheduling apps, you can also make something like a CRM app, which is a customer relationship management app, where people can actually come up and store their customer details. They can actually visualize some charts based on the sales that have happened, right? They can actually the customers can create tickets on the platform. These tickets can be solved by, let's say, dedicated support platform personals. So an end-to-end CRM backend also you can actually prepare, which is used in a lot of companies that you will actually see. And while integrating the CRM app, the chat app that you have prepared, you can also integrate that here. So you can see all of these projects are even interconnectable as well, right? One more interesting project idea that I have is, let's say you can try to prepare something like Google Docs, right? That let's say two people can actually open the same session and you have a text editor kind of like thing integrated, and two people are actually able to edit the same document at the same point of time. How all of this happens? If I want to give you a hint, there is something called as operational transformation that goes on behind the scenes. But how will you implement it? How this actually works behind the scenes? All of this is very interesting thing to learn. And you can see all of the projects that I have talked about, none of them are your regular trivial projects that you just make using your CRUD functions. Every single project has a very interesting engineering problem to solve, and I would highly recommend all of you guys to pick maybe 3 to 4 of them and see which problems you want to solve, which problems excites you. Try to see what are the solutions to these problems and then build the project as well. And if you want to make all of these projects in one shot, if you want to make all of these projects with TypeScript, having a type safe backend and use some really interesting communication protocols like REST, gRPC, GraphQL and whatnot, then do not look further. In our advanced backend development Lambda 4.0 course, we have covered all of these projects, and there are some more really interesting concepts around advanced databases, integration of TypeScript with different frameworks like Express and Fastify, all of the interesting projects, system design, cloud networking and whatnot. Do check out the complete curriculum of Lambda 4.0 so that you can make a definite decision that whether you want to enroll in the course and make all of these projects or not. But whether you enroll in the course or not, I would highly recommend you guys to try to explore these projects on your own, because this is going to give you some immense amount of learning. That being said, let's wrap today's session here. We are going to meet soon in the next set of videos. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. Have a lovely week ahead. I'm Sanket Singh, signing off.